So, the rules of this debate. Each candidate will get a 5-minute introduction, kind of opening statement, tell you generically who they are and what they're about. Then we will go into the questions. We'll start alternating candidates, and they'll get 3 minutes each to answer those. We're not going to be super rigid on the time. Addie Baird over in the audience will raise a hand when your time has elapsed. So please, when she does that, please wrap up your thought. I will then possibly ask you follow-up questions depending on your answers, and we'll work through as many of these questions as we can. Come 7:50, to respect everyone's time, we will then wrap up. We'll do 5-minute closing statements for each of you, and then we'll get out of here and go home and eat dinner for those of us who haven't already. Okay, so that being said, we will start off. Michael, if you would start for us.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Blomquist. I'm a councilman here in the city of Harker Heights. I wanted to read my declaration letter because it really summed up a lot of the things I kind of wrapped up when I declared. So, greetings to my friends and citizens of Harker Heights. 37 years ago, I swore an oath to serve America when I joined the United States Army as an enlisted soldier, serving in the 82nd Airborne Division as a paratrooper. I again swore that same oath when I graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point, where I was commissioned as an officer and continued to serve our great nation for an additional 20 years as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot and as an Army acquisition officer. The mantra of duty, honor, country, ingrained in me at West Point, rang true to me then as it continues today. When I retired from the United States Army after 22 plus years as a lieutenant colonel, I was not done with my service to country. I continued my calling of service, but this time for my local city, Harker Heights. It has been a true honor and blessing to have been selected by the great citizens of Harker Heights, not once, but twice, to be a 2-term council member for Harker Heights. I wish to thank several of the mayors of Harker Heights for mentoring me, former Mayor Mike Aycock, former Mayor Rob Robinson, and our current Mayor, Spencer Smith. Thank you for your words of wisdom and advice throughout my time in running to get on the council and during my time on the council. To my past and current council members, I have served with the council. Thank you as well for being great peers and mentors. We led and made great informed decisions for the betterment of all the citizens of Harker Heights. We all brought different strengths and skills which made us all stronger together for our citizens in the decisions we made on the council. To our Harker Heights City Manager, David Mitchell, Assistant City Manager, Jerry Bark, all the city directors, fire and police chiefs, and the city staff, thank you for making our job on the council so much easier by providing us with the facts and information to be able to make the best informed decisions for all citizens. I salute them all for what they do each and every day for us in our city. As most of you know, council members do not undertake this job for money or special privileges. That's also true for the mayor. We do it because we care about our community and city that we all love and call home. Harker Heights truly is the bright star of Central Texas. I love my city and I want to see the best for all citizens today and into the future. For this reason, I have decided to continue my service to our city in a new capacity, and I am honored to have announced my candidacy to be your next mayor of Harker Heights. Therefore, I resign my seat as per the Texas Constitution, but will remain in the holdover capacity as a councilman until the next general election. So thank you for your time this morning, and I look forward to the questions.
Jackeline?
Got a little bit adjusted here. I hope you could hear me very well. I see yes, yeah?
Yep.
So thank you so much. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to give honor to God who allowed us to be here today, and of course to Vintage Church for having us here. I've been to service here before, and I tell you, if I haven't been here, I'll give a shout out to Vintage. It's an awesome facility. They do 4 services a day, and they rock. So if you haven't been, come visit. Now, the Texas Republican Party, Central Texas. been with them for 23 years, and when we were getting ready to do this, running for mayor, we asked Mack, I asked Mack, okay, Mack, what are you gonna do for us in Harker Heights? And I'm pretty sure Michael said the same thing. And so he said, you know what, I'm gonna do something. This is gonna be the first year, and he took a leap of faith, and he got us here tonight. So thank you for that, Mack, for breaking the ceiling and having us here tonight. All right. Now, those of you who do not know me, my name is Jackeline Fountain, and I am going to be your next mayor if it's God's will. Because the Word of God says in Romans 13:1, God puts us in position. So we're going to do the work, and He's going to decide who goes. So if it's Michael, I'm good with it. If it's me, I'm excellent with that. But God is the one that's going to put us right here where we need to be. So with that being said, talking about a little bit about, I got plenty of time this time. We got plenty of time to talk about where do I come from. I'm a humble girl that came from Puerto Rico. I grew up in the South Bronx, and I made it to be the highest ranking female in the garrison of Fort Hood. And I also was enlisted in my home as an honorary veteran for serving the United States for 28 years. So that's where I come. I've got all the names, the badges, and the titles. You can go into my QR code and you can see what I've done in my military career. But one of the things that I'm really proud of is serving on the City Council of Harker Heights. I served for 2 consecutive terms, successful. We incorporated some programs that were not incorporated when I first got there. Training for new city council, which was very well needed. We also established a welcome to those that are retiring from the military to ensure that they had a welcome, and we go personally every month to make sure with the mayor and the city council. This past month, it was Michael that was there with the mayor, and we make sure that we personally thank them for their service and thank them for coming to our city. So those are the things that we've done. Some of the things that we did while we was on city council that I'm really proud of. Now, why are we here tonight is so that you can know a little bit about me and a little bit about Michael. There were 5 of us running, but last time we got together, which was last week, Michael was Captain America, who? Captain America, and I am Storm. So these are the 2 characters that you got up here. So now, with that being said, my time is up, and we're going to get an opportunity to share why we're here today and why we want you to come and vote for us. Ahora, para mi gente, estamos aquí porque tenemos el derecho de venir y votar. Y aquí nosotros vamos a salir y vamos a votar. Así que yo soy Jackeline Fountain, aquí para servirte for the residents, by the residents.
Thanks. So we'll start off with an incredibly light question about the budget. We'll start, Jackeline will begin, and then we'll go to Michael. Do you plan to increase, decrease, or keep the budget the same? And kind of explain that, if you will.
Okay, so as you all know, that Belcat is the one that raises your property taxes, but our property rate, we're proud to say, and Michael had a lot to do with this because I got the order in his record, and we were all allowed to decrease our property tax rate from 2022 to 0.6519, which is currently, thanks to the council and the mayor, voted it down to 0.5800. So we got that under control. Our city is doing everything they can to make sure that we stay on par, even though we're currently in a deficit of $3.2 million. Our city said, no más. We're gonna go ahead and bring it down. And I'll turn it over to Michael because he was on city council when this happened. I'm done with that question. And he can tell you a little bit more, expand a little bit more on that.
So before we go to Michael, we'll get to taxes. I'm talking about the budget line items themselves, like the spending side of the budget.
Got you. All right, so let's go back to that. So our line items, we come together once a year in August, and we meet, and we go by every line item, and we adjust based on what we have during that spending year, whether or not we're going to adjust it or whether we increase it. That's something that happened during last year in August. So this year when we come to the table and we're currently getting quarterly briefs of our budget. We'll come to that conclusion in August when we meet for our annual budget retreat. So I cannot say that we're gonna go up or down on that, but I'm a firm believer that once we get together in August, we'll make the adjustments as necessary, because that's how we do business in our city. We're transparent and we ensure that what we do fits and serves our residents. That's all I have on that one.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Thank you for the question. Harker Heights' budget last year was just a little bit over $65 million, and that's a lot of money. But you take it in as a whole picture of all the things that we have to fund in the city, it really goes fast. So there's always more wants than we have capabilities in order to spend money. So one of the things I see, last year we had inflation hitting upwards of 9% across. That was devastating. It hurt the city a lot because everything's more expensive. Currently it's floating around 5% as was reported this morning. But you're looking at the population growth of Harker Heights based on last census data. Harker Heights is growing at 19.2%. That's just as fast as Austin. But we're a smaller community, but we're growing just as fast. So we're gonna have to increase our budget in order to supply great city services across the board. So everything's gonna have to look at more police. We wanna try to build fire station number 3. We wanna be able to improve city services with our parks, things that everybody enjoys here in the city of Harker Heights. So we want to be able to increase the things that matter to everybody for their quality of life. We don't want to see the population growth cause us to dilute what we're providing for the city. So, we've had people in the city before saying we want to go to a no new revenue. Well, no new revenue does not address the growth of the city. So we need to be able to continually to increase the budget in order to provide for the new citizens, the new businesses that are coming into our community, to keep everybody on the same level of services, or even to improve it if we can, with opportunities to grow in those service areas. So I see, to sum it all back up, I do see us increasing our budget. We're going to be very prudent the way we do it, though. One of the things I always do at the budget retreats, and I know Jackeline has heard me say this, how can we reduce the tax rate? Can we cut somewhere to save money for the citizens? Because we don't want to raise taxes, but we want to be able to spend our money effectively, the money that we do pull in from revenues, in order to spend for the maintenance and operation of our city and maximize that, as opposed to going out and borrowing money and spending it on interest. So to sum it up, yes, I see us increasing, but we're going to do it in a very smart way, so that way it's not where it's going to be detrimental to the citizens of Harker Heights.
Okay, thank you. So given the answers from both of you, and we'll start the other way this time. What if any part of the budget would you consider decreasing? Is there a part of the budget that you think the city spends too much on?
Looking at it from a whole, I don't see the city spending frivolously. As Jackeline brought up, one of the prime focus for any candidate that comes on board is to get resolution with the state of Texas on the 100% veterans, disabled veterans unfunded mandate that drastically impacts our city. When I was elected 2 years ago, it was $2.5 million. This year it's $3.2 million, and it continues to grow up exponentially as far as this amount of money that we don't get from the tax revenue base in order to spend. So that causes us to, we're not cutting per se quality of life impacts to the city for the citizens, but we're having to function lean. We're having to be very smart the way we spend our money, because we don't want to have to, raise taxes, but we want to continue the level and quality of services available. So looking at it and say, well, what do we want to cut? I don't want to cut anything like parks, police, fire. Those are necessary things you have to have in the city. What we have right now, I would love to spend more money on our police, on our fire. I'd like to build the fire station number 3. Those are 2 areas that are real easy to say, hey, I want to spend more money on. I also want to spend more money on infrastructure. You know, we had two major winter storms, Storm Uri 2 years ago, and then early this year we had a pretty significant early on winter snap. There's plenty of road repairs that we need to continue on across Harker Heights. I mean, I can't say, it's like almost every week I get an email from a citizen, hey, I've got potholes. So I'll say, okay, I'll pass it on to our public works director, so we'll get you on the list. But you know, we have roads that really need to be taken down and repaired all the way. We had some major repairs on Comanche Gap Road after the winter storm for 2 years ago. There's a lot of different areas across the city, and we try to spread that out across the city so everybody sees improvement in our city when we do improvements on roads, on, you know, the patrols we have for the police. You know, everybody wants to be able to, you know, when they call 911, they expect immediate service from emergency services. You know, you don't want to have to say, oh, well, we'll get to you when we get to you, we're just short-staffed. That's not the right answer. You have to be able to come when they call 911. So you know, to go back to your original question, I don't see us really frivolously spending anywhere across our city on our budget. You know, can we cut something? Sure. But if we do cut something, it detriments the effects for the citizens' services. So, you know, there's a cost trade-off there.
Okay, thank you. Jacqueline?
Go ahead and repeat the question.
So if any part of the budget, what would you cut from it, if any at all?
All right, let's just go ahead and bring it back home to what we talked about in August. We have a budget, and when we meet at that retreat, and there's some things that we look hard. We have organizations that we support that you probably as residents don't know that we support. Our free clinic downtown Killeen. We support the Armed Service YMCA. We support our chamber. We support our military affairs. There's sections in our budget that we support. And sometimes when we come together, we decide, well, do we really need to give X amount of money to this special group? Do we increase it or do we decrease it? So when we take that stand in August, we all come prepared with what are our priorities and what we want to do to make sure that we continue to have the quality of life that we are so accustomed in our city. So I'll tell you a little secret. Sometimes you're wondering, well, you know what? The police force in Harker Heights, they're up to speed. So we're not going to take away from that budget because one of the main things that we need in our city is to have safety. But what you don't know is, as residents, and we know this because we're inside the loop and we're making the decisions, but our chief of police and our chief of fire go out and get grants to make sure that since we're losing out $3.2 million, our chiefs are on it to make sure that if we can't fund them with the equipment that they need, they ensure that they have their priority list and they go get grants from the state and they are able to get the equipment that they need. We just recently got a new ambulance, which was state-of-the-art ambulance. How did we get that ambulance? Probably a joint effort with the state and the city. So we continue to utilize everything we have. And when Michael said in his opening statement that we have the greatest city manager and the greatest staff, he is not kidding you. Because they go out and they get it. That's how we grow smart. So no, I don't think we're gonna make no adjustments because I'm not gonna say we're gonna adjust right now because we're not there yet. In August, if you keep track of us, Killeen reports our status every Friday of what's happening in our city. So we're gonna grow smart and we're gonna make sure. Now, we talked about street improvements. We talked about the winter storm that we had. Well, you know, our finance team for the last umpteen years have received the best practice in budget. And they were just in the paper last Friday. What does that tell you? That tells you that we invest the funds that we have so that when we have a rainy day, we're able to go out and fix those streets that we need.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the other side of the equation, taxes. So basically talk about which taxes you want to increase, decrease, no new revenue rate, and just go through your plan when it comes to taxes. Jacqueline, you'll start.
Well, with that being said, we'll go back. So we talked about the property rate, and I already mentioned it, Michael will mention it again. We adjusted it, they did a phenomenal job, they reduced it. Currently now, they reduced it to the 0.5800. So with that, we know exactly what we're doing and we know where we want to go with our tax rate. And so it's lowered, and not only that, but we also lowered our maintenance operating rate to 0.4511. We've also, our new renew tax rate is 0.6305, and so we could go on and on. But we know that the city of Harker Heights has it under control, and they are gonna grow smart, and they are not gonna spend no money that they don't need to, because their main priority is to make sure you have safety, make sure that you have the facilities feel safe in your community, and we're gonna make sure that we're able to fund and complete the projects that we have projected throughout the coming years, because we're out projecting to 2030.
Michael?
The tax rate, I'm proud to say I was part of cutting the taxes twice in Harker Heights. This last year, it was the largest tax rate cut in Harker Heights history. We dropped it just over 7.19 cents. We still generated a little bit more money, but I'm not a proponent of no new revenue, as many of you know, and you've heard me say that, because we need that extra money in order to provide for the city services as the city grows. As I said earlier too, I always ask at the first part of every budget meeting when we meet in August, how can we cut taxes? This year, I don't know exactly what's going to be proposed from the city staff, but I do see us probably lowering the tax rate again, because the property values across Central Texas by the Central Texas Tax Appraisal District increased property values pretty significantly for everyone. Now, a lot of people, if you're homestead, that capped out, but you're still going to increase this next year. So that's going to look at making us take a look at that and probably lower the rate again. I don't know if how the market's going to adjust based on interest rates. Are the property values going to come down? Probably not. Much. If they do, it won't be as much of an impact, because people are already, if you're in that homestead group, your taxes are going to go up just a little bit based on the property value of your home as it appreciates. But with that said, going back to the original question, I do see us probably looking at lowering the tax rate. I just don't know how much until I see the budget and what they're proposing. I always, like I said, I always want to spend more money on fixing our roads, hiring more police officers. I really want to build fire station number 3. We really need it, because the response times as we build down FM 2410 get longer and longer for people to have to respond to a fire. So we're going to have that fire station sooner rather than later. Also, for the tax rate, it's going to would have a big impact is if we get resolution from the state of Texas on the veterans tax exemption for the DVs. That will have a big impact, because we'll be able to build fire station number 3 for certain. We'll be able to feed the mouths, because it's going to be like anywhere from $1.5 million upwards just to run it with the people in it. So it's going to be a lot of variance that we have to take into consideration when we look at the tax rate. But I do probably see us lowering the tax rate.
Okay, thank you. So also on the revenue side, we have, what is your vision on how much of the government should be run through impact fees, but then also fines from ordinance violations and traffic fines as well?
The monies from revenues from impact fees or fines, and it's really not a significant amount of money that's using to run your budget. You've got the lion's share of what the city's budget comes from is the property value, the property taxes. You got your commercial taxes as well. You have your sales taxes, which we've been very blessed. We're pretty conservative on our forecasting for what we forecast and what our sales tax would be. But you've all read the paper. If you read the paper, and you've seen that we've been very fortunate over the last couple of years here now that the monies have been higher. Well, some of that stems back from several years ago when I first got on the council. Texas passed a law for internet sales, and it was based on the zip code. So we started seeing monies come back from sales tax based on where you live. So if you're clicking on buy in your home on Amazon, we're finally getting that tax money now. So that's a good thing. So while everybody's sitting at home in COVID hitting buy, and they're delivering to you, we're collecting those tax dollars here now. So we're able to spend them here on our city services to help our citizens. So that's a really good news story there on the taxes for the revenues. But as far as, for impact fees, we had I voted this last cycle here just a few months ago on impact fees for developments down FM 2410 on the new developments, and I was very adamant that I didn't want to have the current taxpayers having to pay any more of the burden than absolutely necessary. And the cap was at 50%. So it's a 50-50 cost share for the impact fees for the new infrastructure developments, for those new developments coming in, for the connection fees for sewer primarily. But recently we're working on a deal now we might be able to actually lower those impact fees. Because the impact fees is, the city's paying 50%, that means the city's taxes are paying 50%, which means the citizens are paying 50%. I didn't want to have any more of the city paying any more than they had to, but so the developers are paying 50%, the city's paying 50%. Hopefully with the new development that we're working on now, we're going to be able to lower that even a little bit more. As far as for traffic fines and whatnot, that's really not a whole lot of money that comes in, and some of that money, when you collect it, it's restrictive in how it can be spent. So you got to be careful with, just taxes that you pull in, like hotel, motel taxes. They can't be spent on just anything. They have to be, heads to beds type events for the Food, Wine, and Brew Fest or Comanche Gap Park that Jackeline brought up at the last forum we had. So they have to be very, you have to be careful with how you spend your taxes. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jackeline.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so what do you view as the role of impact fees and then ordinance fines and traffic fines and the revenue of the city?
Thank you. Well, during the initiation of the impact fee, I was on city council, and I do believe that was something that was well needed, and we were able to, we met with our builders, and we worked it out. Our city and our home builders worked it out. And so we offered them a pretty good rate on what the impact fee, and Michael stated it, it's impact fees for new developments. And so that was we were adamant that that's where it was gonna go. We did not want our residents to have to pay impact fees. We wanted for new developments to start implementing that. And we've implemented now for a couple of years now, and so Michael is saying now that it's being readjusted, so that's pretty good to be able to have that flexibility. So I think that's really important. And again, our traffic violations, those are small amounts of money, but everything that we get into our budget, we're definitely gonna use it smartly as we grow our city.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next one, we'll get to ordinances themselves. So what city ordinances do you think should be removed from the city code? And just to foreshadow the next question, it's going to be what new ordinances do you think should be there? So we'll talk about removed, and then we'll go to add. Jackeline, you're up first.
So we have quite a few ordinances, and a lot of us citizens don't know some of the ordinances, okay, I'm going to just say it in Spanish. All right, so some of the ordinances that we have that sometimes we have our residents come and tell us about loud noises. We want to make sure that we enforce those ordinances. And the ordinance that I myself would do away with at this point, I don't have any ordinance that I would do away with at this point. So maybe we adjust and we what I like to say is put our heart on it. Sometimes we have a situation that we may have a truck driver that has an 18-wheeler, and as you all know, we cannot have 18-wheelers in our city. They have to go park. So it's all about that communication. I think it's really important that we communicate with our residents what's the why. Because sometimes we just go out there and we give them a citation, but they don't know the why. They might be a new person that just moved into the city. So for me, it's the communication piece is what we need to improve. I'm not trying to take away no ordinance because they're there for a reason. The council has said we need to implement these ordinances, so we're gonna go ahead and work through it. But what I would like our residents to know is if there's an ordinance that's really something that you feel that you want to change, I encourage you, please come by our city and fill out a green sheet and give your grievance. We just had last city council meeting that I went to, we had a resident that came up and he said, I need help. I need help with this ordinance. Could you all help me? And the city said, yes, we can. And that's the type of city that we live in. So if there's an ordinance that you believe is not done correctly and we need to adjust it, come by the city and come see us. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that we make it a yes.
Michael?
For old ordinances, those are ordinances that are already on the book. And typically, if it's something that's somebody has an issue with or wants an exception to an ordinance, we have, and for our developments, we have what's called the Zoning Board of Adjustments here in the city of Harker Heights. So if somebody wants to do something that's against the ordinance or against the law here in the local statutes, they come before the ZBA, and the ZBA hears their case. They're separate from the council. They don't come to the council for an adjudication meeting. This board is appointed by the council. They're their own entity, and if you wanted to appeal a ZBA decision, which would say that we didn't like their decision, they would go to actual court above us. But that's one way to look at if there's a lot of cases coming before the ZBA on an ordinance that they're wanting exceptions to, that's an indicator there to the city that, hey, we might have a problem with an ordinance that we need to take a look at, maybe change it or get rid of it if it's not something that's, because times change. You don't want to just say, that's one of my pet peeves. I hate when people say, oh, that's the way we've always done things. I don't like that term, because there's always a way to look at things and do things better. There's new ideas, times change, technology changes. We want to be able to change with the times. I'm sure in the state of Texas, if you go and look on the code of ordinances there, or the laws there, there's probably quite a few laws that are archaic. They need to be removed. No one follows them anymore, but they're still on the books. So we don't really have anything, some of the more controversial ones that we've voted on and these passed unanimously here on the council was parking on the grass. Some people, there was a very minority of group that were very loud and vocal about, wanting to park on the grass. It's my property. Well, if you came to the city council workshops or the city council meetings and heard some of the citizens that were begging us to pass this ordinance because of the pictures. If you saw the pictures speak 1,000 words. You had a home that had every square inch of their front yard was covered with a vehicle. Up and down the street for 10 cars either direction. It was all belonging to that one resident. Well, the council can't write an ordinance or a law just for that one citizen. We had to write a law that's broad and across the board to be fair and equitable to everybody. So we did that based on the workshops we worked through, based on the council meetings where we had citizens come and hear, and then it was a unanimous decision because it makes our city better for everybody. It goes back to if everyone would just be good neighbors, we wouldn't have to have an ordinance like that. But unfortunately, we do, and it's just to try to keep everything orderly and nice in our city. Another ordinance that we did modify recently was the alarm ordinances, and that was based on times of changing a little bit with alarms. Everybody's got alarms now. Either you get your Ring doorbells on your front doors, but you also have alarm systems on your homes. So we removed some of the nuances of having it come to the council for us to hear it. We moved it down to a lower level where the city manager, who handles the day-to-day operations of the city, he's the one that actually hears those cases now. So that just makes sense and streamlines how the city functions, and that's a good way to do business. So those are some examples of ordinances that we'll look at now.
All right, and then we'll do the exact opposite. So what are ordinances that you think need to be added that have been overlooked? And we'll start with you, Michael.
Some of the new ordinances that we might want to take a look at, it's areas that may occur that we see problems or something's not clarified or addressed. For me to give you an example off the top of my head, it's hard to think of something that would be, well, yeah, we definitely need an ordinance for this because we have so many problems with this area. One of the things I always, when we have what's called conditional use permits that come before the council, it's a, can I do this with my home or add this structure? These CUPs, as you call them, the conditional use permits, they stipulate, they have a list of, usually it's anywhere from 1 to 6 or 7 or 8 conditions that have to be followed if we permit them to do this development or building. Perhaps we could look at an ordinance that would streamline that for conditional use permits, but those are usually, one size doesn't fit all for them, so it's kind of hard to just boil it down into, well, let's just make an ordinance for CUPs or for accessory dwelling units. There's different things that, you have to check the block to make sure it's not going to get too close to your neighbors or be intrusive. One of the things that we did was really new was the chicken ordinances. During COVID, people wanted to have chickens. So we passed a new ordinance for chickens to say how you could have chickens, how many chickens you could have, how far your chickens had to be away from your neighbors. And you couldn't have roosters. No one wants a rooster because we all have our own alarm clocks and we don't need the rooster telling us when it's time to get up. But those are some examples of things that pop up when we do create a new ordinance. The chicken one was probably the best one, recently that came to mind as far as a new ordinance that, hey, we need to do something about this because a lot of people want chickens. You go down to Tractor Supply and they got all the little baby chicks. It's like, oh, and your kids see them. It's like, oh, I want chickens. Okay. But it's a chore. I grew up with some chickens, so I know what it is to do the chickens. It's not just as easy as you think it is, but it's a neat thing, and we were glad to be able to make an ordinance that helped out the citizens that wanted chickens, and I think people are happy for that. So thank you.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Well, the way I see it is that we have ordinance in place, and we continue to improve what we like to call in the military the foxhole. So we approved the chickens, so we're all happy about the chickens and what we're supposed to have with the chickens. But the bottom line is this, is that you, the residents, would know I'm content because out of the last quarter that we had 603 violations of the current ordinance that we go out and check. So out of those 603 ordinance, we had a 100% rate of contact, and we took care of those fines and everybody was happy. So with that being said, what we have right now in place works, but what I would like to do is, instead of whenever a new resident comes into our city and they go to turn on their electricity through us, what I would like to see is for us to give them a welcome packet. And to mitigate, because the reason why we did away with all the parkings on the grass was for safety. We could not respond in time to get inside that house to take care of that. And then the second reason, because I was on the council when we passed this, was the environment. So we had to take care of the environment, right? We don't want oil spills, we don't want fuel to go into our grass. So that's one of the reasons why we did this. But if I had to do an ordinance, I would think that it would be the limitation of vehicles parked on two-way streets, where you have a lot of cars parked, right? And then you backing out, but there's a car in front. So I do believe that that's something that we need to take a look at and try to see how we can mitigate from vehicles parking on the side of the road when it's only a two-lane road, and now you have a hard time getting in and out. So I do believe that that's something that I would like to look at in the future.
Okay, thank you. So now going to crime. We know in the past few years with the COVID crime spike, and then actually with Harker Heights kind of seeing some spillover of crime from Colleen spill into the city. What would be your plan on how we address that issue? Like how do we get crime under control in Harker Heights? And Jackeline, we can start with you.
Well, that is, I was doing a lot of well here. Well, let's get to it. One of the things that I think is really important is that we start at home, right? We got to teach our kids, because that's the basics. If we teach our kids to do right, then we won't have crime, because if you look at the range of criminals, it's not you guys sitting in here, I guarantee you that, but it's those young men and women that don't have anything better to do than to go out there and commit a city crime. I know that we've got broke into our car because Terry left the door open, and but they were out and about trying to get stuff in your wallet, or there was a charger, or there was I don't know, whatever it is that they have. So those are the kind of things that I believe in. I believe in programs, and I believe in making sure that our kids understand. And so I'm going to give a shout out to my police chief, Chief Hawkins. He's got a program called Baby, Build a Better Youth. And we started that program, and it's changed their lives. How do they get into the program? Well, the first thing they do is they committed some kind of crime. They probably ran a stop sign. They probably were speeding. So they come to our teen court, and then from teen court, we move them on and we build them up. I personally have been there to see the training, and I tell you, if you haven't taken the opportunity to learn a little bit about our program called Baby, Build a Better Youth, then I say go out there, shame on you, go out there and see what those kids are doing. When I went there to visit, we had one 15-year-old that was there, and during that session that I went, they were talking about their careers and what they wanted to do in their lives. And this one child said, I want to be a counselor, and I've gone with my friends, and I talked on the phone, and I talked one of my friends from committing suicide. That's what we do in our city. And that's where we start. We start at home, we start with programs in our city, and we grow our kids to know that we have their backs. So that's how we mitigate crime in our city.
Michael?
Crime is a very serious concern for our city. I see it as probably a number one problem. Like you said, we do have a lot of bleed over crime. I had the opportunity to attend the Citizens Police Academy, and I believe Jackeline did as well. And I would encourage all citizens to take that opportunity to sign up for the Citizens Police Academy, because it gives you a really great understanding of what our police officers go through and how we function and how we help our community. I want to hire more police officers. I've mentioned that a couple times. We need to hire more officers as we continue to grow. We're already pushing towards 35,000 right now. Our population growth is going to cap out around 50,000, but we're going to need to continue to grow the police force in order to address the crime situations. One of the things that the police have been very proactive in, and we have an awesome police force, and I would fully concur with Jacqueline's assessment. Our police chief and police officers are very, very professional. They have my utmost support. The whole council is very supportive of the police. They started a program called the 9 p.m. routine, where it's to lock it up. You've probably seen it posted on their website, but it's just to get out there. So you lock it up, Terry, you wouldn't have that problem with someone breaking in your car. A lot of these people are coming around, they're just walking down the street. Thanks for leaving me that segment. They're just checking doors as they go down to see if the car is unlocked. And if it is, well, hey, it's free pickings. They're going in. So the lock it up routine is really good. That's a great idea. They have neighborhood watch groups. We have one in our group, in our neighborhood. I know many neighborhoods do have them. And they put the placard on the side of the vehicle, and they'll drive around and check on people. If people are going to go out of town, they can register with the neighborhood watch groups, and they'll keep an eye on your home for you. it's a great extra set of eyes. I mean, I know everybody's got Ring doorbells and alarm systems, but you know, when you're going out of town, you know, one of the things you can always not do is post, hey, I'm going out of town, let everybody know. But when you're on the cruise ship, you know, that's the last thing you want to do is be worrying about your house. So having those neighborhood watch groups, an extra pair of eyes is very helpful in our community. But you know, crime is a serious concern, but I think last year we only had one homicide that they had not arrested somebody in our city. They have leads on them, but they just haven't caught the individual yet. But for the most part, Harker Heights we have crime, yes, but they solve the crime. We have a very high, much higher success rate than some of our neighboring communities do, and that's hats off to our police. They do an outstanding job here in our community, keeping us safe. And like I said, when you call 911, they're on their way. Sometimes it's rough on a Saturday night or a Friday night because there are a lot of them are up on the north side of town because of all the bars, but they do an outstanding job everywhere. So thank you for our police taking care of crime.
Okay, so sticking on the same subject a little bit, besides just growing the number of police as the city grow, are there any structural changes to the Harker Heights Police Department that you would recommend?
Well, with growth, the current police station is almost to capacity right now. So we're gonna have to grow the police department. One of the ideas I floated out a few years back with our city manager was making a substation on the south side of town. So maybe that would cut down on response times if we had officers stationed on the south side for events that occurred on the south side. So that was one of my ideas that I floated, looking at the property close to fire station number 2, because there is some property there where we might be able to build a small substation where the police could station there. But if we don't build a substation, if we look at, we have to look at it we'd have to build onto the current police station and grow it. So those are some things that, it's obviously that would cost money. So that's something we'd have to budget for. And it's probably something they are talking about, and they may be presenting it to us this August, is growing the police station. I know they've mentioned it, they did mention it last year, but there was nothing on the board as far as we're gonna spend this next year or whatnot, but I expect to see something like that come up. We are gonna have to grow the police station, either adding a substation or adding to the new police station. And that's something I would look at working with the city manager as the mayor to see where the best place it is for the city. Because you want to be, wherever you put it, you want to maximize your response times. You don't want to, make it a duplication of efforts if you have to build a substation, because that would cost more money for duplication of efforts, and you don't want to have that. So you have to look at it very analytically and do cost benefit analysis on how, is it better to build one, or is it better just to improve the old one and make it bigger? So that's something we'll look at, and we'll make the right decisions for the city.
All right, thank you. Jacqueline?
Thank you. We need to, as we grow, the last conversation that I had with David, which if you all don't know him, David Mitchell is our city manager, and we have the ability to grow 20,000 more people. That'll bring us up into the 50,000. And as we grow our city, we'll definitely have to grow our service to our residents. So with that being said, if you've never been to our police station, we have room to grow there if we needed to expand. And so we will be able to have room for new detectives and new police officers. So that would be an option. Again, as we continue to grow the city, we have to continue to adjust our growth in policing and our growth in firefighting. So I do believe that in the near future, we will project and we will plan to either have a hub for our police officers or continue to grow our current police station.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to Harker Heights' master plan. Are there any parts of the master plan that you would disagree with? Or is there any part of it that you feel super passionately about?
Well, when we talk about the growth of our city, we have been able to grow in the last, when I first got here back in 1999, we were about 14,000 people. Now we've grown half that. And so with that being said, we have an overlay already prepared for growth into 2030. And it's not something that we could just sit here and discuss for 3 minutes, because it takes a little bit longer than that. But I would encourage you as residents of the city to go into our planning and zoning. They do a very good job in laying everything out. In fact, I have a book here from planning and zoning that I got, and it takes us out to 2030. So I encourage you to see the overlays. A lot of people complain about Business 190, that we need to do more for that area. We currently have an overlay to improve that. We have discounts for those business owners to go out and develop. We've developed the north side. We now have housing out there. We have duplexes out there. So we're currently utilizing the funds that we can get from state to help give discounts to those builders that want to build out in the north side. So we continue to try to improve the foxhole, but it's not going to happen overnight. And we know we've been here for 23 years and we've seen the growth. We've seen the growth in our neighborhood. We have seen the growth in the east side, and we've seen the growth in the west side, and we've seen the growth in the south side. But we definitely need to take a closer look on how we're going to develop Business 190 so that Business 190 and the north side mirrors what it looks like in the south side.
Thank you. Michael?
There's some things that I see in the near future with our master plan that I strongly agree with. A couple of them dealing with major intersections that currently do not have traffic lights at them. Chaparral, if you've ever been there in the morning or in the evening, is the nightmare. So that's definitely one where we're looking at straightening out the road as Chaparral gets widened for the new high school, and we're gonna have to rebuild a new bridge across Tremere Creek there to be able to put a light there. And it's not going to be a cheap adventure, so we're having to look at dollars with K-Tempo in order to get funding for that, because you're going to have to probably look at even bringing the hill down a little bit so that we have line of sight for the stoplight. Another one which is a really bad one that's going to need a light, is on FM 2410, Warriors Path and Comanche Gap Road. Those are two. They're coming right now. They're not joined, but coming either direction. You got school going down the road down Warriors Path. You got everybody coming out of the ridge coming to work, and there's no light there. So we're looking at straightening out and connecting those two roads, and we're going to make a light there. With that said, FM 2410, starting kind of where Gambit is now, where it's going in, the new entertainment thing, which I'm glad to say is coming online hopefully this summer. We're going to widen FM 2410, probably going all the way down. It's probably going to ultimately all the way down to Sims Road, which is just extending through our ETJ, going up to Sims Road into the Belton area. But that major corridor is going to be developed. We've already plumbed it with the infrastructure to provide for the housing developments that are going down 2410. Along the actual corridor itself, there'll be commercial developments as we grow down the east side. That's where the growth of Harker Heights is going to be in the future. And so we're going to be looking at that and improving those areas as we go into the future. And so I strongly agree with our master plan there. One of the things that quickly, I'm the president of the Economic Development Corporation, and we actually did meet officially this past November. And one of the things we talked about on the north side of town is commissioning a study to look at repurposing or redevelopment of some of the areas on the north side, because it really needs some help in basically building some of the businesses or targeting some of the industries that we want to come in to revitalize the north side. I mean, there's a lot of unused space right now. If you've driven through there, you can see what's going on down there. They've had some nice businesses come in, but it really has a lot of potential, and that's what we're trying to do with this commission on this study, is to try to look at what can we do on the north side that's going to make the biggest bang and make it really revitalize that side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, kind of specifically to zoning, what do you think works well with Harker Heights zoning? What do you think doesn't work well with Harker Heights zoning? And what would you change? So, Michael.
With zoning, if you've ever come to a council meeting when they have zoning, I'm probably the most verbose one on the council that asks questions about zoning issues, especially if there's citizens involved that disagree with a zoning case. I always would get with the planning and zoning board members and speak with them after they met to try to find out what was the discussions that occurred. I'll listen to the tape as well. What questions were asked, what questions were not asked, because that formulates how I want to ask questions. I would always go out and talk with the citizens that are going to be impacted by the zoning case that was before us in the city. You know, one size doesn't fit all for every zoning case, because some parts of the city are older than others. Some were annexed in after they were built in the county, so they have different standards. So it's not one size fits all. So you have to look at zoning cases uniquely and making sure that it's not going to drastically impact the citizens that live close to that area. Granted, if you're on a major thoroughfare and it's zoned for commercial, something commercial is probably going to go in there. But you want to I like to try to talk to the people that are going in there and say, hey, let's talk to the citizens around and see what you can do to mitigate their concerns. Do they want a fence there, or are you going to have really bright lights that are shining in their backyard all the time? There's different things you can look at trying to mitigate some of their concerns. And when I see that, I really like seeing developers talk to the citizens that it's going to impact, because the citizens are the ones that live there. The businesses coming in, they're going to impact whatever they do surrounding that area when they come in to build something in that zoning district there. But it just goes to helping make better neighbors. If you have something that's going in there and everybody understands and they're part of the process on making it better for the community, for the citizens around there, then it's a win-win, I think. So we have a very good planning and zoning director. Christina Ramirez does an outstanding job. Our zoning board of our P&Z does an outstanding job of vetting the stuff before it gets to the council. So they ask, I would say the majority of the questions that we need to make an informed decision. But on occasion, I'll see something, or I'll say, hey, there's a question they missed, and I'll ask those questions. And it helps generate the dialogue on the dais, so that way the council members can make the informed decisions to help our community move in the right direction. Thank you.
Thanks. Jackeline?
And the question is?
Zoning. For our Harker Heights zoning process, what do you agree with? What do you not agree with? What could get better? What needs to, stay the same?
So here we are talking about planning and zoning. We have one of our old commissioners, the chair, right here, Mr. Robinson. And we get briefed once a year on their agenda and their objectives. And I'm here to say that our planning and zoning has been instrumental in the growth of our city and what it looks like today. And I'm really proud of the things that they do, because believe it or not, everything is surveyed, everything is studied, and the existing and future growth of the city, they make sure that we have adequate traffic, they make sure that we have provisions for lights and air, they make sure that they promotion of health and it's convenient. So when they're building, they make sure that they have what they need. So this is just not fly by the air type of organization. This is the heart of Harker Heights. And this planning and zoning that we have, me, myself personally, and Michael said it, our director does an outstanding job. And our planning and zoning has developed our city, and they make sure that we have the utilities are put in correctly, we're up to code. So we're doing everything that we possibly could do as a city to ensure that we develop our city smart. And so at this time, I do not have anything that I want to change with what we're doing because they do take a deep dive into how we develop our city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is a pretty popular question with local governments. What are y'all planning to do about the water situation and the lack of possible future water in your city?
Don't you know that I'm Storm? I'm gonna order rain. Okay, so we are continuing to work with our neighbor cities to resource the water so that we are not able to, because we're in a drought right now, and you all know it. Our lakes are really low and when it comes to consumption. So right now we have not alerted, we're still not there to the point that we need to change our drinking capabilities, our lawn capabilities. So we're gonna monitor it closely and we're gonna make sure that when the time comes, if we have to adjust the level of utilization, we're gonna go ahead and do that accordingly based on what we have in our water
Okay,
capability.
Michael?
Water is tomorrow's fight all across Texas. It's a limited resource. You could, like Jackeline said, our lakes, look at them right now. They're going down, but they go up really fast if we get a good tropical system come through. But believe it or not, we get most of our water from Belton. That's the lake that gives us our drinking water. The city of Harker Heights does have water rights that we have reserved with Stillhouse. And that's primarily, we've contracted for that water to allow us to grow towards that 50,000 cap that we're gonna have. So we've already been very proactive in the city and looking out for our water needs for the future. But, like you said, when you get in a really, really bad drought, it kind of puts the pinch on everything and the plans can change a little bit. I see that the state of Texas is gonna have to, and I've asked this question with Representative Hugh Shine just 2 cycles ago when we had one of our meetings 2 months ago. What is the state doing to look at things outside the box as far as water for the state of Texas? Because we might be okay here with our own community because we have our own lakes here, but the state of Texas, you look at the lakes on the east side of Texas, and they're always almost full, almost always having water going over the dam, flowing down towards the Gulf. You look at the lakes in central and west Texas, they're almost always dry. And the state of Texas has water regions that, they're all really good about protecting their own rice bowl. And my question to our representative was, they need to look at, somebody at the higher level above the governor or the lieutenant governor, whoever, they need to take a look at, we need to be able to laterally pull water from one region to the next, basically in a sense like a straw to transport the water to where the lakes that need it, so that way the people have water to drink. The other option would be desalinization plants, but that gets more expensive, and then you have to also bring that back up from the coast. That's also, ultimately that would be the long-term plan, because I see water just, there's not like there's more and more of it as we go into the future, unless you start building more lakes. And I don't see Texas doing that in the very near future, though. That is a possibility. It's just you haven't seen it happen in a number of decades around here, since Stillhouse and Belton were built back in the 50s and 60s. We haven't had any new sources like that come up. So we're going to have to be, we have as far as the city goes, we do have our stages where we'll put out where you don't wash cars or whatnot to try to conserve water. But right now we're good for our water. We've been proactive, and we've contracted with water for the needs for both Belton and Stillhouse.
Okay, thank you. So next question, this wouldn't be a Harker Heights debate unless I brought up Prop A. So what are your thoughts? What are future plans? And what specifically should the mayor be doing about Prop A? Michael?
Thank you for the question. On January 10th, 2023, I read the following statement at our council meeting. The Harker Heights City Council voted on November 22nd, 2022 to repeal an ordinance eliminating the enforcement of misdemeanor laws relating to marijuana possession. In doing so, We were not taking any position on state marijuana laws. We are simply performing our duties as required by the Texas Constitution and Texas law. Texas legislative establishes that law governing marijuana possession. The Texas legislature also sets laws requiring police officers to enforce the law. Those with concerns over current law should take those concerns to the state legislature. Simply stated, cities in Texas do not have the authority to amend or ignore state law. Yes, this initiative ordinance passed with 64% of the vote, but Ground Game Texas, which is an outside organization, and other external operatives misled the voters here in Harker Heights that their votes on this local municipal ordinance can be set aside the state law. This resulted in voters voting in an effort that was entirely null per state law. City ordinance cannot override state law. State Local Government Code Statute 370.003 says, quote, the governing body of a municipality, the commissioner's court of a county or a sheriff, municipal police department, municipal attorney, county attorney, district attorney, or a criminal district attorney may not adopt a policy under which the entity will not fully enforce the laws relating to drugs. This is really clear here. The Constitution of the state of Texas authorizes the creation of home rule cities. However, the same section of the Constitution that authorizes home rule cities also limits the power of home rule cities. That provision says that home rule cities may not adopt any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution of the state or of the general laws enacted by the legislature. The initiative ordinance was inconsistent with Statute 370.003. It was also inconsistent with state laws that required police officers to enforce the laws. The city also believes that it was inconsistent in other provision of the Texas Constitution that prohibits anyone other than the legislature from setting aside state laws. Texas state law requires that a police officer enforce all state laws. An officer is duty-bound to do so. As the initiative ordinance restricted or eliminated the authority of the police officer to enforce the state laws, it was inconsistent with state law. In fact, the initiative ordinance stated that a Harker Heights police officer may be disciplined for following state law. That's crazy. Again, this was and still is contrary to state law. Just as I swore an oath 37 years ago to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same, Harker Heights council members, the mayor, our police officers have all sworn oaths to follow state constitution and all laws of the state of Texas. The vote on November 22nd, 2022 was our action to follow our oath while ensuring that the Harker Heights police officers were able to do the same.
Michael, can I stop you there?
You may. But you may read this it's all posted online. So.
You can have my time.
You can tell I feel very passionate about this. We must follow the law. That's what we swore our oath to do, and I follow the law.
There you go. Okay, Jacqueline.
Here, here. I agree that we will not allow any outside group to dictate what we're going to do in our city. We will continue to say no to Prop A. I will not let outside influence come into our city and tell us how we need to live, what we need to do. It took us 63 years to get here, and we are not going to allow outside influence to change the way we live. So here I say, Proposition A is no go.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're coming up on time, so I'll give you one last question, and that's, sometimes it's difficult for citizens to get in contact with city councils and government, local government in general. How will you increase transparency and also citizens' abilities to communicate with you and to really, find out what you do, find out what the processes of local government are? So, Jacqueline, you can start.
What an honor to be able to serve as mayor of Harker Heights. I tell you what, I don't have a full-time job, so I plan to spend a lot of my time at City Hall. That's how I'm gonna do it. Well, I'm out and about, and I'm engaged with my community, and that's the way we do it. It's talking to one another. I'm a resident, I live in the city, and I want to treat the residents the way they need to be treated. My number is 254-258-3225, and my email address is jackfont@msn, and that'll change. But I tell you what, it's about relationships, it's about trust, it's about representation, and I'm here to represent. And that is my story, I'm sticking to it.
Awesome. Can you say that phone number slower and that email slower so people in the audience have
let me give them
to check it
10.
out?
My number is 254-258-3225, and it'd be an honor to receive your call and get back to you. Because if I don't have the answers, we have a dynamite staff that has the answers to everything you may want to know.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael?
As a council member, it's really easy to get a hold of me. You just go to our city website and you can click the button, contact Michael. You send an email to me, which many citizens do, and I'll always respond to your email. I might disagree with your position, but I will hear your email. I'll even set up a meeting with you on occasion at City Hall, so that way, we have an opportunity to hear citizens. I do plan to bring back, as mayor, the coffees with the mayor. That was something they did in the past with one of the previous mayors, and I'd like to see that reestablished, so that way it's an opportunity, maybe once a month, that the citizens can come and have a cup of coffee with the mayor and have a chat. That's a great opportunity. I do it now as a council member. I rotate between Black Rifle and Starbucks. Many can attest. I'm usually there almost every morning at one of the two establishments, getting a coffee, and that's a great opportunity for me to engage with citizens. I've found numerous things out that I wasn't aware of just by going and having coffee. So that's a great opportunity to ensure that you're hearing what's going on in your community and being able to address it for the betterment of our community. I'm all for transparency. That's the buzzword. Everybody loves using it, but what does it mean? We're all subject to the Open Records Act. You can fill out a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, and get documents. Many citizens do that here now, periodically if they want to find out what happened in the past or what happened at this meeting. Right now we do post all of our minutes for our council meetings. I believe they also post the minutes for the PNC, so citizens can go out there and take a look at it now and see what's going on in city government. When we go into closed session, we're discussing something that's very specific, and we're only able to do it in closed session. If we're going to take an action, though, it comes back out into open session where everybody can see what we're going to vote on and enact. We don't do anything behind closed doors and smoky-filled rooms or anything like that. That's pretty comical. If you're believing that kind of stuff, this is not a wag the tail on the dog situation. We're all about doing what's right for our community and doing the great things that we need for our city to make it better for everybody. We all love our city. We want to see the best for our city, and that's what I'm here to do as your next mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now transition to closing statements. Michael, you can go first, and then Jackeline, and y'all have 5 minutes each.
I want to thank you all for coming. Again, my name is Michael Blomquist, councilman here in the city of Harker Heights. I started off, I retired back here in 2012 after my military career. I got involved in my community as a community leader. That's what kind of started me down this path, and I enjoyed it. You can't please everybody, but I really strive to do the utmost because I really love my community. I love making an impact in people's lives for the better. But I understand I can't please everybody, and that's just like that in life. Everybody, if you've been through life enough, you know that there's always going to be somebody that's just grumbled about something all the time, and you're just going to have to, agree to disagree with those individuals and move forward for the betterment of all. But I want to be your next mayor to continue my service to our community and making it the best place for all here in Harker Heights. I love my community. Again, I talked about my focuses. I want to get the veterans tax exemption resolved. That is the #1 concern. I want to continue infrastructure improvements across the city. We've had a lot of issues pop up from winter storms primarily, but also just regular wear and tear. There's roads that go out for different reasons, and we need to be able to fix those and keep our city infrastructure top notch for our community as we grow into the future, because we're still growing. Like I said, 19.2%, that's pretty fast. So those, all the new citizens, the current citizens, we have to have good roads to drive on. We talked about the population growth. With that, I see us having to continue growing all of the city services in order we don't degrade our city services that everybody is accustomed to. We don't want to have less of a service provided to our community as we move into the future, because we're growing so fast. We got to continue to grow with the city in the services so we provide the top-notch quality of life for everybody that lives in our community. We want to have good clean water, good safe roads to drive on. We want to have traffic lights so you can get out and not be stopped or sitting there for minutes and minutes and minutes until you can get out into the traffic and get on your way. So we talked about some of those traffic lights we're going to need to have. Those are the kind of things I want to be able to address with the city manager to move our city forward in the right direction for the future. And I would be honored if you come out and vote for Michael Blomquist on May 6th, the election day. Early voting starts on the 24th. I always tell people I've been out knocking on many doors across the city. It's easiest to vote here early in Harker Heights. You're usually in and out in less than 5 minutes. You can pick the day that way. If it's a nice day out, let's go vote. Because if you wait till May 6th, you don't know what the weather's going to be like. And usually there's always a line, and no one wants to stand out in the rain to vote. So pick a nice day on the early voting, come out and vote for Michael, and I will be very happy to lead you as your next mayor of the city of Harker Heights. Thank you.
Thanks. Jackeline?
Thank you. It's truly a privilege and an honor to be here with you today, especially being in the house of the Lord. How cool is that? To have a forum where we are like-minded, we believe that God gave us this beautiful country that we could serve. Imagine a girl growing up in the South Bronx of New York, being able to stand here before you, and all thanks to serving in our United States Army. Because without that army and saying, here I am, Lord, send me, I was able to reach this point in my life to be able to share with you that for me to be your next mayor would be an honor and a privilege, and it will continue my service. I only don't serve on city council, I serve throughout all of Central Texas. Right around here, I'm engaged with my community, and my community is engaged with me. And I want to continue that engagement and that continue to serve, because we are here to serve. And that was one of the first things that our Lord did for us, is he showed us by example that he washed his disciples' feet because he loved his disciples. And what greater way to show your love for humanity than by making sure that you represent them the same way that God has represented us. With that being said, I have my family here to support me. I thank them for coming out and spending time here. I got my uncle that flew all the way from Puerto Rico to give me support. He got his shirt on. Yeah, go for Jackeline Fountain. That's what I'm talking about. So, it's that makes it special for me, because this city is a city that really has embraced all cultures, diversified. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. We heard that. Remember that, Michael? We heard that. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. So it's really cool to be able to be here with you today and to share and to have those relationships, because serving is relationships. And we want to have those relationships. And as a mayor, I believe that the mayor should be present. And our mayor has done a really good job. Our mayor, Spencer Smith, I wouldn't be running if he had another term, because he's really good at what he does. And he's out there up front. And he set a really good example, a really good bar for us. Because Romans 13:1 says God will put us in this position. It's not Jackeline, it's not Michael, it's God. And so let God's will be done. And if it's God's will for me to be your next mayor, I'll gladly accept and I'll gladly serve you to the best of my ability. But not only me, my husband too, Terry Fontaine, he's on the ticket too. So, and the rest of my family. So we got to make sure that what we've done here is to keep, is our constitutional right to defend how we live here in our city. We built it. We had great men and women that built this city. It took them 63 years to get us to this point where Michael and I get a chance to come to Venice Church and tell you why you should vote for us. I'm here because God said, Jackeline, go forward and do great things. Go love humanity. Be a great example. And that's why I want you to vote for me, because when you vote for Jackeline Fountain, starting on April 24th all the way to May 6th, you're going to know that you're voting a leader that's willing to sacrifice to make sure that we have the things that we need to keep our city safe. We need to make sure we fund our police officers. We need to make sure we build our fire station number 3 so that we can reduce that response time. That is why I am running to be your next mayor, because I have the time, I have the energy, and most importantly, I got God right here in my heart. So that's why I'm running to be the next mayor of Harker Heights. Blessings to all of you.
Thank you.